Hello, good evening, and welcome to the first of two videos exploring the all-new diplomacy system in Total War 3 Kingdoms. Our aim this time around is to revolutionise diplomacy, enabling players to influence, befriend, coerce and extort other factions in deeper and more powerful ways. The Three Kingdoms period of Chinese history is an age of personalities, and each faction is defined by the personality of the warlord who leads it. Indeed, if you have an existing diplomatic treaty with a warlord and he dies, handing the reins to his heir, who perhaps doesn't like you quite as much as his father, your diplomatic relationship with them can change significantly. Here we're in the early stages of a campaign playing as Liu Biao. A governor and gentleman of the Han Dynasty, he begins the campaign with the province capital of Xiangyang under his control. Not a significant territorial holding by anyone's standards, and with no farms of his own, food income, which is crucial to public order and military provisioning, will soon become an issue. Plus, he's in the cauldron of potential crises that is the centre of the campaign map. However, looking south, we can see that Liu Biao also begins with two vassals under his charge, Cai Mao and Huang Shu. And in Total War 3 Kingdoms, vassals are no longer simple sources of income and support. Cai Mao owns a livestock farm, and as food is now a tradable resource, let's try and make him our campaign breadbasket. Looks like he's got up to 6 units of food he can potentially provide us with, so let's make the request. You can now haggle in diplomacy, adding, removing or modifying offers until you can find a deal that the other guy is happy with. Asking Cai Mao for 6 food produces a negative figure here, indicating his unwillingness with the deal on the table, so we have to find something that he values enough in return to sweeten the deal. The quick way to find out his price is to click the Make This Work button. In this case, he's demanding quite a hefty sum, which is sort of understandable, given he's got something of a monopoly on food in the area. But it's quite a sum to sign up to this early in the campaign, so let's try and find something else that might satisfy him. Elsewhere, you can see that there's quite a raft of new treaties, deals and options available. Anything that's impossible to offer or demand in the current negotiation is greyed out, and certain options won't become available until your faction rank advances. Under diplomatic treaties, we have several offers available. Let's be the good guy and offer Cai Mao a guarantee of autonomy. Now, this is a promise that we'll never annex his faction into our own, but this is not something to take lightly. If we were to later break that promise, it would be viewed as an act of treachery and would negatively affect our reputation with all factions. As we can see, it's something he quite likes, but 6 food still outweighs it in his own mind. So let's drop the asking price to 5, and yes, he's willing to agree to that. We propose the deal, and the food will be ours next turn. This method of haggling can be used in all your negotiations as you massage the deal to find something that works for both of you. As you can see, there's a lot of new tools to play with. Let's take a quick look at a couple more. If you're short on cash, you can request it from another faction, and perhaps offer to pay it back each turn in installments to make the loan more palatable. If you've gained a reputation for treachery, of course, characters will be less inclined to trust you in such matters. However, a loan can really make the difference when you need a quick cash injection. You can also offer to support the independence of another vassal state as it attempts to shake off the yoke of its parent faction. This is basically an offer to support them if they go to war with their owners. It's a great way of weakening a powerful faction by appealing to the underdog to rise up. And if they choose to do so, you'll automatically join them in their war. However, if you then make peace with the parent faction, this will again be viewed as a treacherous act. You can now use the threat of war as a negotiating tactic, though you must be prepared for the consequences. Perhaps you're on a war footing and running at a budget deficit in order to maintain your armed forces. So you request a regular payment from another faction, and they are disinclined to lend. You then threaten to go to war with them if they don't comply. Now at this point, the faction compares your military strength to its own and weighs up a host of other factors, such as the number of wars it's already engaged in, which of you has the best and strongest allies, and your treachery rating, for example. It then decides whether the cost of that war outweighs the regular payments. And crucially, unlike peaceful negotiations, when you saber-rattle the AI like this, you won't see the usual evaluation figures, making it a much riskier gambit. If they decide to call your bluff and reject your proposal, war is declared. Time to put your money where your mouth is. Certain core diplomacy functions can also be approached using the new Quick Deal menu, and this is a nice quality of life improvement. If we select non-aggression pacts, for example, we can see all the known factions who are capable of entering into such an agreement with us, colour-coded by who definitely will, who might, and who definitely won't. You can swiftly set up a host of agreements via the Quick Deal menu, and you can still haggle in order to fine-tune deals with those maybes. Okay, we'll leave Liu Biao to carve out his fledgling empire for now, but in short, diplomacy in Total War has changed enormously. With so many more levers to pull, chips to barter, and with a superfine level of control, a dedicated diplomat can engineer situations which were simply not possible before. Stay tuned for part 2, in which we'll explore the new forms of alliance you can forge, the reintroduction of an old fan favourite feature, region trading. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the next in our 2-part series examining diplomacy in Total War 3 Kingdoms. 3 Kingdoms marks the most extensive rewrite of Total War's diplomacy system to date, and in the last video we covered deal-making, haggling, saber-rattling and more. Today we'll be dealing with the different forms of alliance and how they can help you to broker major blocks of power across the campaign map. There are now 2 key forms of alliance, coalitions and military alliances. Each offers different levels of choice, commitment and control, and they also share some important features. Both forms can have multiple members, enabling you to build large power blocks for mutual benefit. And simply by being in a coalition or alliance with other warlords, your diplomatic standing with the other members increases. Coalitions and military alliances also benefit the mobility of your armies. Here we're in the early phases of a campaign playing as Yuan Shao, who's currently besieging a town owned by the Han Empire. As he's in enemy territory, we can see he's getting a major negative to his army's military supplies each turn. Meanwhile, his eldest son Yuan Tan is holding the front at home, and instead gathering supplies each turn. Coalitions and military alliances give you new tracts of friendly territory in which to rest, replenish and resupply before striking out into enemy lands once more. So let's break down the 2 forms of alliance. A coalition is a looser, lower commitment sort of arrangement than a military alliance. Forming a coalition is relatively easy as long as you have a neutral or better diplomatic standing with the other party. Being at war with a mutual enemy is also a definite bonus, of course. Let's see if we can get a coalition signed with Liu Bei. He names his price, which we can well afford, and yes, the pact is signed. Now, if we arrange the diplomatic faction list by group, we can see we're now part of the newly formed Thundering Sky Coalition. Once a coalition is signed, any member can invite another warlord to join. But like many major actions that a warlord wishes to perform in a coalition, the consent of all parties is required. So if we go on to invite a new warlord to the coalition, for example, the action will be voted on by the other members, and the majority rules. So if we propose inviting Cao Cao to the coalition, for example, we can see Liu Bei looks well upon this. Diplomatic standing plays a strong role in voting, of course, so the higher your standing with other members, the more likely it'll be that they'll vote in favour of any coalition action you declare. Now that we're in a coalition, we gain visibility over our fellow members' lands, where our armies can of course now resupply on their travels. In addition, you can only switch characters and their retinues out of armies in friendly territory, and allied territory counts as this. Being in a coalition also means you're strengthening ties with increasingly friendly factions that might join you in your wars, but that is not a given. This early in the game, for example, with relatively small holdings and wars of their own to contend with, our coalition pals may not be so inclined to join in. As a loose arrangement, there's no formal obligation for coalition members to join each other's wars. So as we declare war on Yuan Shu, we see there's no vote required. We can then of course go cap in hand to our coalition members afterwards and seek their individual support in such a war. But their military support will still need some negotiation, especially if a coalition member is friendly towards the warlord you've just declared war on. In short, you can merrily engage in private wars without involving the entire coalition. Coalitions are easy to arrange and easy to leave too, but the benefits to maintaining a coalition are clear. Not least that the longer you're in a coalition, the better your diplomatic standing with certain factions becomes. If a faction joins and it turns out to be a thorn in your side, you can call a vote to kick them out, enabling you to manage membership, provided the other members agree. Jumping into a later save now, let's take a look at military alliances. Now, these are a higher commitment form of alliance, and warlords will need to be at the faction rank of Marquis to sign one, though this is not required to join an existing alliance. You can also transition a coalition into a military alliance on the strength of a vote, and again the warlord who proposes this must be a Marquis or better. Yuan Shao's current coalition sees him in league with Liu Biao and his vassals, plus Wang Kuang and Cao Cao. Cao Cao and Liu Biao are all for it, but Wang Kuang isn't, meaning 3 in favour and 1 against. So Wang Kuang leaves the party and we form a military alliance with Cao Cao and Liu Biao. The key differences between coalitions and military alliances revolve around the notion of shared defence. As soon as a military alliance is signed, you become part of a defensive pact. If war is declared against a member of an alliance, that member may choose to fight the aggressor in a private war or call their allies to arms. All members of the alliance are duty-bound to uphold this and will then enter the war. You can also declare an alliance war against a third party, which of course goes to an immediate vote with the members. If the majority vote yes, the alliance will go to war with the target faction. There are only 2 ways to resolve an alliance war. Either you leave the alliance and sign peace with the opposing belligerents on your own terms, or the alliance votes as a group and once again a majority vote is needed on both sides to bring peace. Any minorities opposing peace will leave the alliance and continue in private wars against the original targets. Neither coalitions or alliances stop you from engaging in private wars, of course. You can still declare war or sign peace with other individual factions at your leisure. Now, all of this adds up to a system where, over the course of a campaign, you'll see coalitions form over time as different warlords' goals and situations align. The AI understands the value of such arrangements and will engage in them frequently. Some coalitions will be fleeting and will fall apart as goals diverge. Some will endure to become distinct power blocks, and some will solidify into powerful military alliances that the world begins to revolve around. Indeed, wars between significant long-term alliances become more common as the campaign reaches its later stages. Another classic diplomacy feature also makes its return in Three Kingdoms, and that's region trading. Alongside food, money, ancillaries, and numerous other diplomatic treaties, territory can now be used as a bargaining tool in diplomacy, and it's about the most valuable commodity going. It's a useful way of garnering major value to strike big deals, especially later in the campaign where you may have a surfeit of territory. If we approached Cao Cao and click the Trade Territory option, all our owned regions are shown, listed by commandery, with their constituent regions detailed below. You can only trade away regions which are adjacent to the territory of the warlord you're dealing with. So if we were to offer territory to Cao Cao, we can see that only Yingshuan Commandery is tradable, as it's the only one next to his lands. As you can see, productive farmland is very desirable, so we can demand a lot in return. In this case, let's try 4 food per turn for 10 turns and a regular payment of 500 gold per turn. But a big ticket item like a tract of farmland can be useful in deals where the warlord's asking price may be high. In aggregate, these many changes to diplomacy enable you to achieve more than ever before. With a host of new big-ticket assets to trade, and with the ability to forge mighty alliances between powerful warlords, the campaign power play in Total War Three Kingdoms is at once more subtle, more complex, and more far-reaching than ever before. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more